What's going on, guys? Sean Nalawani, SeanNal.com. And I got a question from a subscriber here asking about German volume training. And he wants to know, is German volume training effective for muscle growth? I'm looking for a new style of workout, and a trainer at my gym was mentioning it. So for those who don't know, like the name says, German volume training, or GVT for short, is a high volume style of training that originated back in the 1970s, and it was originally for weightlifters to put on muscle in the off season. And the basic premise behind it is the 10 by 10 approach, where you're basically doing 10 sets of 10 reps on a big compound exercise like a bench press or a squat or a chin-up, and you're using the same weight across all 10 sets at 60% of your 1 rep max. So that means that you would find a weight that you're capable of doing about 20 reps with, but you would stop at 10 reps and do a total of 10 sets. And then once you can do 10 sets of 10 with a certain weight, then you would increase the weight on the next workout. And then the more recent versions of German volume training, because you'll see different variations of it in terms of the exact workout structure, but it's where you use antagonist pairing, where you're switching back and forth between 2 different exercises that hit opposing muscle groups. For example, a bench press paired with a chin-up, or a squat paired with a Romanian deadlift, and you would do 10 sets of 10 on each, switching back and forth. And then usually there's also a second pair of exercises you do after that as well, using a lower volume of 3 sets each. So would German volume training be effective for building muscle? Keep in mind that any training routine where you're using enough intensity and enough volume for each muscle, and where you're achieving progressive overload over time, is ultimately going to add muscle size and strength to your body. And German volume training has obviously been around for a long time, and it's been used successfully by plenty of lifters, which is why it's still around and still popular. But I would say that in the vast majority of situations, for the average trainee, it's not something that I would recommend, just because the overall amount of volume per session is, I would say, unnecessarily high. And so even though you might make gains doing it, it's just not going to be an optimal approach, and you're probably going to be better off by lowering the workload per session a bit, which is going to help you recover more quickly, and then you can hit each individual muscle group more frequently throughout the week and probably make faster gains that way. Remember that you can only stimulate so much hypertrophy in a single training session, and just doing more and more sets doesn't automatically mean more growth. It's going to work on a bell curve where doing a certain amount of volume is good, but as you do more and more sets and move beyond that optimal amount, where you've maximized the hypertrophy response, you're just going to be eating into your recovery time. You're going to be putting more stress on your central nervous system and more stress on your joints than you really need to. Keep in mind that German volume training was originally designed for elite level weightlifters. And so we're talking about people who are already highly trained with good genetics and whose entire days basically revolved around weight training, and where drug use probably was a factor as well. But for the average natural lifter, this amount of volume is just going to be overkill in most cases. And then because you're doing so many total sets and the rest periods are fairly short, your cardiovascular system can actually start to become a limiting factor as well, especially on big exercises like squats or deadlifts. So what I would say overall is that if you're an advanced lifter who's already close to their genetic potential and you just want to try something new and more challenging to see if it might help you squeeze out some additional gains, then German volume training is something you could experiment with and see how it goes. But for everybody else, especially beginners, if you're still in your first 1 to 2 years of training, or even 1 to 3 years for that matter, I can't see any reason whatsoever why you would need to bother with German volume training. So for everybody else, besides advanced lifters, just stick to a more conventional style of training and keep it more basic, because a German volume training routine is likely just going to burn you out. And even if it doesn't burn you out and you can recover from it, it probably won't be optimal, and you'll be performing way more work per session than you really need to. It's hard to give exact volume recommendations because it really depends on the person and on their experience level and their genetics and things like that. But a good overall guideline for the average lifter would be to directly train each individual muscle group somewhere between 1.5 to 3 times per week, and using a total weekly volume of anywhere from about, say, 30 to 60 reps for smaller muscle groups and around 70 to 120 reps for larger muscle groups. But those are just estimates, keep in mind, because it really depends how heavy you're going, how closely you're training to failure, as well as individual differences in terms of training tolerance. And again, those are weekly figures for all workouts combined. But as long as you're training decently hard, so at least a rep or two short of failure, and you're striving for progressive overload and performing good quality sets using good form and good technique, then as a natural lifter, you really don't need to perform a ton of volume in order to gain muscle effectively. And you don't need to spend hours and hours in the gym either. And so something like German volume training, it just won't be necessary in most cases. So I hope this was helpful. If you do want to get access to my exact recommended workout routines, including plans for beginners, intermediates, and more advanced lifters, along with meal plans, supplementation advice, and 12 weeks of one-on-one coaching, then you can grab my complete body transformation blueprint by clicking here or by visiting bodytransformationtruth.com using the link in the description box. Make sure to follow me on social media here if you aren't already. The official website is seannell.com, and if you found the advice useful, feel free to share the video, comment, like, and subscribe to stay up to date on future videos. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll talk to you again soon.